Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy puts you in the hover boots of Star-Lord and asks you to lead a team of the galaxy's deadliest heroes. You might not get to control the rest of the Guardians directly, but don't be fooled, you have to work as a team in order to make the most of the game's combat. The game loves to throw all sorts of different terms, attack properties, and status effects at you, and while I don't think this is a particularly difficult game, it did take me a lot longer than I thought it would to really get the full hang of the combat, which is why I'm here to lay it all down for you, so you'll have more of a leg up than I did when you start the game. And if you find this helpful, please give a like and sub, it helps out a lot.
Real smooth plan so far.
Hey, at least I'm pulling my weight.
It is not much weight to pull.
Yes, Star-Lord may have guns to pew-pew with, but it's important to understand that while they deal damage and are perfectly capable of taking down lower-tier enemies, the real focus is on the abilities, both Peter's and the rest of the Guardians. Abilities can do all sorts of stuff, like crowd control, multi or single enemy damage, but a key element to focus on is if it's a damage ability or a stagger ability. Damage is exactly what it sounds like, focusing on taking out large chunks of the enemy's health bar. Gamora's starting ability, Deadly Strike, deals heavy damage to a single target, making her your best damage dealer early in the game. However, some enemies might be resistant to Gamora's attacks. Certain higher tier foes will have a stagger bar, and if you want to take them down effectively, you'll need to fill it using abilities that cause stagger. Once full, the enemy will become staggered, which leaves them vulnerable to previously resisted abilities. Drax's starting move, Destroy, deals heavy stagger, so a basic combo would be to use Drax to stagger someone, and then have Gamora sweep in with heavy damage. So the key is going to be spending time learning the role each move serves. You can find all of this information on the abilities menu. Memorizing each move sounds like a lot to handle, but each character only gets 4 moves total throughout the game, and you unlock them at a slow enough pace so you don't get overwhelmed. Also, a handy little combat tip: if you forget which move causes stagger, when you pull up the ability menu in combat, stagger moves will always have the stagger icon on them. Another thing you have to consider is elemental moves. Over the course of the game, Peter gets access to elemental shots on his blasters. These moves are used both in puzzles as well as combat. Sometimes the uses will be pretty obvious, like destroying these enemy shields with your ice shot, but in the heat of battle you might not be sure how best to use your elemental attacks. Thankfully, the game actually makes this pretty easy. To the left of the enemy's health bar is a square box with an icon which tells you which type of shot is best effective. Standard enemies will have this blaster icon, which means Peter's basic attack works best, while special foes will have icons associated with different elements. Now this might all sound really obvious, but the game doesn't explain this, and it actually took me longer than I'd like to admit to notice this, so consider this me passing these savings on to you.
We're ambushing them!
A seemingly minor but important move you might actually forget about is that Peter has a melee attack. Typically, you aren't going to be using this all that much. You're better off blasting or using an ability, and you're gonna kind of forget it's a thing, but melee can actually be pretty effective, especially when Peter happens to combo a melee with other Guardians to do more damage, and there are some enemies that are weak to melee, and you can make really short work of them. Unfortunately, there really isn't any sort of tell I could find, and you just need to experiment to see which enemies are weak to melee. Just give them a good whack and you'll know right away if the melee is effective or not. Okay, so now that you know how to use all your tools, it's time to maximize your damage. Certain abilities can apply a damage multiplier to the enemy as signified by this icon here. Each Guardian is capable of applying their own multiplier, meaning you can stack them on a single enemy up to 5 times. However, getting it this high is pretty tricky. The effect doesn't stay very long, so you'll need to blow all of your abilities at the same time, which might not even be the best idea for reasons we'll talk about. Plus, on common foes, you'll likely kill them before getting all the way to a stack of 5.
Ain't trying to snap out of that one.
I recommend only trying to get higher stacks on larger boss enemies, and for common encounters, focus on just getting 2 stacks instead, and then lay down the damage. Interestingly, the game doesn't communicate to you which abilities apply a damage multiplier, leading to a bit of guesswork. For me, it always triggered on abilities that affect multiple targets, like Peter's Eye of the Hurricane, Gamora's Shadow Strike, Drax's Pound and Pummel, Rocket's Grav Stick Grenade, and Groot's Entangle. When you're juggling all these different systems, stagger, elemental damage, multipliers, not only does it dish out the hurt, but it also increases your momentum meter. This is basically the game's way of saying, hey, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. Aside from a nice pat on the back, the reason you care about momentum is because raising it higher will increase your chances of bonus attack prompts triggering, giving you free damage. You'll also gain a larger XP payout at the end of a fight. Momentum will decrease while being inactive, so you want to be laying down the hurt constantly. But repeating the same moves over and over reduces how much momentum they give you, so you want to keep mixing up your tactics. The worst thing you can do is spam all 5 Guardian abilities in one go. Instead, try and pace them out to keep your momentum up. This all sounds like a lot to keep track of, but the good thing is the game layers a lot of these systems slowly over time. Practice each new element as it's introduced, and soon you'll be kicking ass as a well-coordinated team. I'm going to leave you with some gameplay of everything I just talked about all coming together so you can see it in action. And remember, if you found this video helpful, please, why not give a like and sub? It really helps us out. And make sure to stay tuned to GameSpot for our full review of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Heads up! Ambush!
Yeah! We're ambushing them! Brutify him, Groot! Punch it, Drax! Didn't anyone
You
struggle in ways?
Sharp edges!
Rocket! Fireworks! Round him up, Groot!
Oh, sucker! Suck on this!
Yeah! Tell him, Quill!
Time's up!
Do your thing, Drax!
It's a breathing room, Groot!
Keep him busy, Groot!
Okay, coast is clear. You're up, Rocket.
Make it fast.
Of course! There ain't a lock this side of Xandar I can't pop.
I am adding to your debt for every extra minute this takes.
Keep your manis on. You can't rush